Okay, it's 9 o'clock, so I think we're ready to get started. We'll let anybody who joins the Zoom meeting in as we go along, but I'll start off here with a welcome and a few housekeeping notes. Hi, everybody. So I'm Scott Miller-Cressman. I work in communications at the Region of Waterloo, and I'll be sort of the host and the MC for the webinar this morning. So just before we get started on the material, a couple notes about how we want to run the webinar. I'm asking that you'll please keep your microphone muted and your video turned off during the webinar. The speakers, the people giving the presentations will have their video on. And maybe at the end, if you want to ask a question, we can turn on your video and do it that way, but we'll mostly be taking questions through the chat box. I think that's the easiest way to keep track of it. So you should see in your Zoom's control bar at the bottom, you should see a chat button. So feel free to type in your questions as we go along, and we'll try to answer them as we go through, but we may not get to everything, and we'll have a Q&A and a discussion at the end. You probably heard the announcement when you joined the Zoom call that this webinar is being recorded. And that's so that we can potentially share it with other plumbers and water softener dealers later on. Okay. So today we're going to be hearing from three of us who work at the region's water efficiency, on the water efficiency team. We've got Steve Gombos. He's been the manager of water efficiency for 20 years. Before that, he worked in waste management at the region. And he's developed a lot of the programs the region has that have led us to some of the lowest per person water use, well, much lower than the Ontario average here in our Waterloo region community. Nicole Haynes is going to be talking as well. She's the program coordinator for many of our water efficiency programs. And before we were working at the region, she was in environmental compliance in the private sector. And then lastly is me. I work in communications, like I said, and I'm the newest member of the water efficiency team. Before that, I worked in newspaper journalism for almost 8 years. And yeah, I'll be the host, and Steve and Nicole will be delivering the meat and potatoes of the webinar today. So this is what we're going to be covering. I'll briefly outline just what water efficiency is at the region. Steve will be talking about water softeners and sort of give you a picture of what water softener use in the region looks like in terms of numbers and environmental impacts. He's going to be talking a little bit about water softener efficiency and what makes for an efficient water softener. I'm sure that's something that a lot of you already know quite a bit about. And he'll touch on some alternative technologies, things that condition water, possibly without using salt, and some of the options there. And then Nicole is going to describe our water softener plumbing rebate program, which is a new program we launched this year, offering people a $50 rebate to switch their plumbing to soften only hot water in their homes and leave the cold as hard. And yeah, and then we're going to have a question and discussion period at the end. And we are really hoping to hear from you. You know, many of you on the call here are professionals in the industry, and you know a lot about water softeners. And we're really here, we're hoping that we can learn from you as much as you'll learn from us. So we welcome your comments, and we'd really like to know what you think and what insights you have about efficient water softening. Okay, well, so water efficiency. So the region does have a number of water efficiency programs, and why do we do that? We have and the reason is we have limited supply of drinking water. We get all of our water from groundwater, or the majority of it from groundwater and from wells. And water efficiency is something we do because we want to make sure there's enough water for future generations. So we don't want to use up our limited groundwater supply too carefully. And there's also financial benefits. The region can avoid building expensive new wastewater treatment plants or water treatment plants, and being water efficient also saves people money on their water bills. Using less water means they don't have to pay as much. So we've been doing this since 1974. And just to briefly outline some of what we do, some of you may be familiar with the toilet rebate program that we did from 1994 to 2014, and we replaced a whole lot of inefficient toilets that were using 13 liters per flush, and upgrading them to newer models which can use 5 liters or less per flush. And that's saved a great deal of water over the years. You also probably know about our water conservation bylaws in the summer. This is something that runs from end of May to the end of September to limit how much people can water their lawns. And that just helps keep peak demand down during the really hot, dry periods of summer, so we don't drain down our reserves. We also have 2 programs for residential. We have a homeowner program, a home audit program, where an auditor will go into people's homes and check their house for leaks, check how they're using water, and give them recommendations on how to be more water efficient. People also can get free efficient shower heads and free tap aerators as part of that program. And we have sort of a similar program for multi-residential properties, apartment buildings, and multi-unit buildings, where the property owners or the landlords can get free shower heads, or we'll also give them a rebate for toilet flapper replacements. Some of the other things we do, we work with businesses and institutions in the region. We help them find water saving solutions, and we have some funding and cost sharing to help incentivize that. We've worked with Toyota, Grand River Foods, and many, many more. And you may also know of our rain barrel program, which is a sale we've been running for almost 20 years in the spring. And we offer them at a subsidized rate, $40 a barrel, and we usually get big lineups of people wanting to get a rain barrel for their home. And then more on topic, I guess, for what we're speaking about today, the region also does some outreach and education around water softeners. And this is a website called Water Softener Facts that we run alongside the city of Guelph, with information about how water softeners work. We have a buyer's guide about what to look for in an efficient softener. And we also have a map of different neighborhoods in the region. People can go and check what is the exact water hardness where they live, which is a feature that people seem to enjoy. Great, so that's an overview of what we do. Just give you an idea of who we are and where we're coming from. And I'm gonna pass it over now to Steve. I'm gonna stop sharing here, and he's gonna go into more about our water softener program.
Thank you, Scott. I'm just going to bring my slideshow up here. Okay, yeah, so as everyone knows, we're kind of landlocked here, surrounded by Great Lakes, but you know, we're smack dab in the middle. We get almost all of our water from underground, 120 plus wells in the region supplying water. About 25% of our water comes from the Grand River. And so the water we're drawing from underground is finite, in the sense that we can only pump so much of it to supply the growing community. and it's highly mineralized water and therefore very hard. When we're talking about hard water, we're talking about mainly calcium and magnesium. The median hardness in Waterloo region is 26 grains per gallon, which equates to 453 milligrams per liter. The United States Geological Survey says that anything over 3.5 grains per gallon is moderately hard. Now we talk about grains per gallon, and again, most of you know this, is that the water softeners we buy and the treatment devices are usually often manufactured in the U.S. and everything is kind of reported in U.S. measures. So 1 grain per U.S. gallon equals 17.1 milligrams per liter of hardness, and milligrams per liter can also be quoted as parts per million. So we did some testing back in 2009 to 2012 to learn more about water softeners, because we keep getting questions from the public about, which one should I buy? How do they work? What's an efficient softener, and so on. And so we had to learn right along with the public as to how they work and what kind of measures, what kind of impacts they have locally. So we set up a test facility at our William Street pumping station in Waterloo. And it was co-funded by us and the city of Guelph. So all the work that we're doing in softeners, we've worked in partnership with the city of Guelph. And at that location, we've got a hardness of 34 grains per gallon. And the USGS says anything 10 grains per gallon and above is considered very hard water. So again, this is some really hard, very mineralized water that we use to test the softeners. So people in the community use softeners to prevent the scale in the plumbing, and the water heater, that's a big one. Studies have shown that over the course of several months, water heaters can lose their efficiency by 25% if the scale builds up on the heating element. It makes cleaning easier for people, and you get more soap lather. So that's from an aesthetic perspective, especially, people really like the soft water. The ion exchange process, of course, we're exchanging hardness ions that stick to the resin beads that's in the resin tank, and you can see there on the left the resin tank, and eventually, as the calcium magnesium ions stick to the resin beads release the salt that's there, and eventually the beads become exhausted, and then you have to regenerate. And they use a concentrated salt solution that comes from the brine tank for that. And once you recharge the resin tank, and you backwash to clean the system out, and that also goes down the drain. So you have to put salt in your brine tank and to keep the system working. So one of the things I just wanted to mention here is that there's a really good Health Canada technical document that outlines sort of water softening and water quality, and it's a really good guideline document that I've referenced there. They say that, and this has been documented in other locations, that soft water, especially when it's taken right down to basically zero hardness, can be a little bit corrosive to plumbing, which doesn't normally affect necessarily residential that much, although we do get some reports of pinhole leaks happening in a residential setting. In a high volume commercial setting where there's a lot of flow, nursing homes, for example, are the nursing home that the region runs, Sunnyside Home, a lot of pinhole leaks happening on the hot water side, and it can be attributed to many years of running soft water through the copper piping. So let's look at the water side first. We estimate there's about 142,000 households softening water. Now that would include high-rise buildings as well. And they're generating about 1.5 billion liters of backwash per year. And that goes down the drain into sanitary. So we consider that as water wastage. And from our calculations, it seems to always come out that your house, about 7% of household water use is from backwashing water softeners if you have one in your home. At the same time, when you're talking about pumping and treating drinking water and supplying it to households, there's greenhouse gases associated with that. It takes energy to do that. On the health side, health professionals don't recommend people drink softened water. Ion exchange softeners add about 300 milligrams per liter of sodium. And if you're on a low sodium diet, you shouldn't drink that. On the other side, drinking hard water, mineralized water, is considered healthier for humans to consume. So an emerging area that we're dealing with is the chlorides in the rivers. So in the salt, there's also chlorides. And right now, we calculated about 21,000 tons of salt is entering into the water, the wastewater stream every year from water softeners. And that's not treated at the wastewater treatment plant. So those salts and chlorides end up in the Grand River or in the Speed River locally, if you're in the Guelph area. These chlorides contaminate the rivers, and we're seeing increases all across the Great Lakes Basin, and this can be harmful to plant and animal life. At the same time, there's a lot of energy used for mining salt, treating it, processing it, and transporting it to market. And then, of course, we drive to the store, we buy the salt, we drive it home. So all that generates greenhouse gases. So there's, of course, a lot of other sources of chlorides coming from road salt and from industrial commercial sources. So that's how the situation has become more important for us to look at chlorides and try to find ways to reduce them. So we did a study on the environmental impacts of softening a few years ago, and the consultant that did the work suggests that about half of the wastewater effluent coming out of some of our wastewater treatment plants is associated with water softener. This shows the Galt wastewater treatment plant. Now, if you go further downstream, they're saying up to 1/4 of the chlorides in the local waterways are from residential water softening. So you can see there, the dotted line is from water softeners, and then your total wastewater effluent above that. So basically, we're approaching chronic levels for chlorides in the river. And we won't talk about it, but of course, there's an ongoing campaign to try to reduce the chlorides from road salt and that sort of thing. But it's really difficult to reduce the amount of road salt when you've got icy roads and liability concerns, in parking lots and so on, if you don't salt and somebody gets hurt or there's an accident. So the types of softeners you see around here, most often, the one on the left has the resin tank inside, and the brine tank is kind of wrapped around it with a controller on top. The middle unit is a mechanical unit. It has 2 resin tanks. So if one tank is exhausted, it switches to use the fresh tank, and then regeneration occurs with the exhausted tank. And then on the right-hand side is another softener where the brine tank and the resin tank is separate with the controller on top there. The common controllers you'll see around, of course, the timer-based ones, which are the least efficient. So you just set the timer and it regenerates whenever you tell it to. Then there's a mechanical regeneration system. Basically has a little water meter, and after so many gallons of water goes through it, it'll trigger a recharge. So a little more efficient there. And then, some of the digital units are more efficient. They're called demand-initiated regeneration. So they have a little computer in them and will trigger regenerations based on household water consumption and actually keep track and will actually become more efficient over time, a month to 3 months. I think it takes data collection, and then that makes the softener regenerate only when it's needed. But each of those single tank units would, of course, still have to have a reserve capacity for those days when there's sort of a spike in demand. One thing we've learned is recently that Madison Metropolitan Sewer District in Wisconsin has launched a pilot program to go out and make water softeners more efficient in the community, or to promote residents, homeowners, to buy a new softener if the old ones, you can't make them efficient enough. For example, the timer-based ones. And what they claim in their training, they have a couple of really good training sessions for plumbers on it. And they're saying that you can improve the performance of a softener by 25 to 50% by optimizing the existing units, or having them replaced with more efficient, more modern water softeners. So our auditors here locally, the WET program stands for Water Efficient Technology. So we have our WET audit program in the residential, and it's subcontracted to REAP Green Solutions, who you may recognize the name as being a group, a nonprofit organization that also does energy auditing in households. And they're finding things like leaks in the softeners, that softeners are regenerating too often, things not set up properly, wrong hardness settings, salt settings may not be the most efficient. And then they're finding things like people using softened water for irrigating outside, and also soft water coming from drinking water taps. And a lot of times residents don't really know that's happening. And so we're educating them as we go. Of course, there's the inefficient timers that I talked about. And the other thing is old water softeners that have exhausted resin beds. They need to be, either the resin needs to be replaced, or they might want to consider replacing the softener itself. And in this area, the resin only lasts about 12 to 15 years. This is what you folks are telling us about that. And so that's what we're quoting here, is that around 15 years, and you have to kind of replace the resin bed. So solutions that you can offer to your customers: fix leaks and install more efficient fixtures. Make sure the softener is running most efficiently. Ensure that the outdoor water taps aren't being softened. Again, I'm sure you would do this. Suggest the customer buy a more efficient softener. Soften hot water only. That's going to save a lot of salt and water. And perhaps if you are confident in the technology, you could suggest an alternative salt-free device. On our Water Softener Facts website, we do have a buyer's guide for residents, and the number one thing we recommend is that people buy softeners certified to NSF ANSI 44 performance standard. It's a voluntary standard that when certified, the softener is able to remove a minimum of 4,000 grains of hardness per pound of salt used. And at the same time, use no more than 4 US gallons of water per 1,000 grains of hardness removed. Alternative treatment devices, I'm not going to say a lot about all these. The Water Reuse Research Foundation did some work with Arizona State University to do some testing of alternative treatment devices, and there were sort of mixed results on these, and you can find more information on the alternative technologies on the Water Reuse Research Foundation website. Um, and So one of the things we like to learn from you is if you're selling any of these types of technologies, because we do get questions from people about what's available as an alternative to ion exchange water softening, and particularly to minimize their salt use. One of the technologies that looked promising that we took a closer look at was this nucleation assisted crystallization. It's also been referred to as template-assisted crystallization, or TAC. And how this technology works is there are these media beads, and they're like templates, and they have little nucleation sites on them, and they attract calcium and magnesium ions, and they'll collect on the nucleation sites and form microscopic crystals. And at a certain point, those crystals will reach a critical mass and then break free and stay suspended in the water, and then are not going to stick to plumbing and appliances. And so that's kind of a technology that looked promising. So we did some testing of the technology at our William Street pumping station facility, and it looks like the technology does work. The Water Reuse Foundation study said that it was over 90% effective at preventing scale. And it looked like from our tests, we ran about 4 or 5 years worth of water through the units. And it looked like the media lasted for about 4 years, 4.5 years. So that seemed like a promising route to go. And you don't need any salt or water for these things. You just run the water through. The question is, though, how long will the media last? And at that point, when it's exhausted, then it's time to replace the media within the unit. So the next step was we thought, well, we'll ask consumers to test these units in their households, and we can ask them what they think about the technology. And so what we did was, through a telephone survey and focus groups, we selected 18 households in regional Waterloo and Guelph to test the units out. And these households had relatively, good plumbing, good appliances, and they were using water softeners, and those softeners that they were using at the time were functioning well and not too old. So they were no more than 10 years old. So we knew that they were kind of happy with their softeners, but were open to trying this new technology. So we installed these units in the 18 households at the end of 2017, and then they used them for a whole year and gave us feedback along the way on what they thought of the units, and then at the end. And so the whole study is now been published and is posted on our Water Softener Facts website if you want to read the whole thing. And here are some quick results from that. 13 of the 18 homes chose to keep the unit. They didn't seem to find too many barriers with the technology that they couldn't overcome. Again, this is a group of people that I would say are more strongly motivated to protect the environment. So they wanted to keep it for that reason in many cases. They found it convenient because it didn't need to use salt, and there was no maintenance. And some of them thought the technology was so good that they were promoting it to their friends and family. So to summarize the benefits they found: no salt, saving money, less salt, less water, less electricity, reduced environmental impacts. They were happy because they were able to drink the water from all taps, because this technology doesn't actually soften the water. It keeps the water still hard, so it's drinkable from any tap. What happens in the early stages especially is that it can actually, the process can actually remove some of the calcium buildup in the household pipes. And so they felt that, from an intellectual point of view mostly, they thought that was a good idea, that it's cleaning the house out. The reported drawbacks. Number one, people complained about spotty dishes and cutlery. So there is a bit of a film that's left behind of calcium. So it's not like, again, it's not soft water. So you're going to get some film buildup. And apparently it is easy to clean up. And what the solution was for spotty dishes was to put a little cup of vinegar in the dishwasher, and that seemed to solve the problem. But another big one was people weren't sure, is the system really working? And that was our biggest question going into this was, you can't really tell when, if it's working or not. When do you replace the media? That's a question mark. If you get changes, if there's manganese, for example, iron and manganese can foul that media up pretty quick. And so, it may not last, it may last 3 years, it may last 5 years. So that's a question mark that is still there. And some people felt that it wasn't a mainstream technology. So they were worried, if I put this in my house, can I sell it afterwards? Will that be a negative for reselling the house? Here's the most telling thing that we found. Market research companies often do this. They generate a net promoter score. So they ask the residents, how likely are you to recommend NAC to a friend or whatever product it is that they're researching? And then from that, they generate a net promoter score. And what they do is, first you throw away the passive. So anyone who says, I don't know, I'm not sure, we discard those answers. So then what you do is you subtract the detractors from the promoters. So in this case, 47% of the people who tested these units said they weren't likely to recommend this technology to a friend or family member. On the other side, you get 29% of the test participants who said they would recommend it. So you subtract the detractors from the promoters, and you get this net promoter score of -18. Anything in the negative is bad from a marketing perspective. So in looking at this, I would say that the manufacturers and the retailers of this NAC technology have a long way to go to build the kind of consumer confidence that you need to really be able to advance the technology. So at this point, we're saying, well, I don't think we're going to be providing rebates or promoting this technology aggressively. It's just an alternative that residents can try out if they feel strongly that they want to avoid, putting more salt into the environment. So what we're suggesting is, if you feel very strongly about reducing those chlorides going into the environment, don't soften at all. I am personally not softening at all in our house, and it's a little more cleaning, but there are ways around it. And I grew up in Galt. We didn't have a softener for most of my young life, and every once in a while you just have to fix the leaking taps or whatever, but it is doable. The other option that we've already talked about is making softeners more efficient. And then people can consider a salt and water free alternative. But we're thinking, like, if we want to make a real impact without really making it hard for people, we suggest softening hot water only. And so that's where we're heading with this program at the current time, is we're promoting the softening hot water only. It makes great sense financially. You still get this, soft water benefits for your appliances and for washing and cleaning. Um, Commercial and recreational facilities, high-rise apartments and office towers, they only soften hot. And in many cases, even on the hot side, they're blending hard and soft water together to raise the hardness to about 7 grains per gallon. And in fact, that's what's happening here with all of our region facilities, including the headquarters building. Softener coming on the hot water tap is 7 grains per gallon, and then the cold water is hard. And it really doesn't make sense for, even at the household level, financially, to be softening all the water in the household. About 35% of the water that you use in the house is hot, 65% cold. So if you soften hot water only, that's a 65%, potential 65% reduction in salt and water use associated with water softening. Using very conservative numbers on the performance of softeners, a 3-person household is going to save $39 a year on for water and $45 per year on salt. So for an annual cost savings of $84, and that's year in and year out, saving 8,800 liters of water and over 100 kilograms of salt per year is also going to reduce your greenhouse gas releases by 48 kilograms per year. So you're helping the environment and you're still getting those benefits of softening. So we got approval from the Regional Waterloo Council to launch a pilot residential rebate program to convert households to softening hot water only. We launched it quietly this summer because, of course, with COVID, these types of programs aren't just going to take off like they would, during normal times. So we're making a slow start to the program. We're going to run it till the end of 2023, and we're going to gather information. So we're offering rebates, one time only for low-rise residential. And the goal is to convert over 1,200 households to softening hot water only. That'll save 10,000 cubic meters of backwash water per year and 126 tons of salt. It also reduces greenhouse gas emissions by approximately 56 tons per year. So that's just for 1,200 households. We've got 142,000 households and, in the region softening right now, and the vast majority of those households are softening all the water in the house, hot and cold. So if it costs a resident $200 to convert to softening hot water only for the plumbing, we give them a $50 rebate. The payback is 2 years to the resident, and that's use that scenario. They'll do that right away. If there's a payback of 2 years or less, it's more or less a no-brainer. Now, we're still learning about how much it's actually really going to cost for residents to do that, and so Nicole will be talking to you about that in a minute as to what we've found so far. But so far, we're learning a lot, and that's the goal of this program too, is to find out how much it costs to change plumbing out. Is the $50 rebate enough? We don't know. We just kind of thought that would make sense. We're looking at trying to promote any new builds to have the plumbing set up for softening hot water only. We want to find out if plumbers and softener retailers will support the program. There are some of you out there that feel this is a good idea, and then there's others that aren't sure that this is the right way to go. What kind of participation will we get? This is not something that's going to be an instant change. I believe it's going to be a cultural and sort of a gradual change in the community that we can work towards over the next several years. And then, of course, we want to know from customers how they feel about changing to softening hot water only. And then, we're going to get some better measures as to how much real savings in salt and water that we can achieve through the program. So that's my part of the presentation. And I'm going to give it to Nicole, who will now speak to the results from the program so far.
Thanks, Steve. I'm going to hop in, actually. We have a couple poll questions that we want to ask our participants here. So you're going to see that pop up on your screen shortly. We'll just do this before Nicole starts. So we're curious if you've had any customers asking you about softening hot water only, and this may not be applicable to all of you. You may not all have customers per se, but if you're a plumber or if you're in the water softener industry, is this something that anyone has brought up to you? We'll just give it a minute for all the answers to come in. Looks like everybody's answered that wants to. Okay, I'll show you the results. Okay, so we've got quite an even split between yes, no, and people who the question isn't relevant to. All right, and we'll do one more poll questions here. In a similar vein, what about customers asking about alternative technologies? Do you have people who are asking you for more information about the non-salt water conditioners? I'm certainly finding at the region, I have more people approaching and asking us about those programs and wondering if we're offering any incentives for the non-salt technologies, which we're not at this time, but it's something we're hearing more about. Okay, I think everyone's answered. I'm gonna end that poll. So it looks like many of you are finding the same. Pretty strong majority saying yes, people are asking about that. Great, thanks everybody for sharing. I am going to turn it over to Nicole now. She's going to talk more about some of the details of our water softener rebate program.
Thanks, Scott. So like Scott said, my name is Nicole and I coordinate our residential home audit programs and other residential water efficiency programs. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about our new water softener plumbing rebate program. On this slide is a poster that some of you may have received in the mail or in an email inviting you to attend this webinar, and it has some of the program details and what we are thinking an average household of 3 will expect to see in annual savings. So again, this is a pilot program, and we're offering a $50 rebate for households switching their softener plumbing to soften the hot water only in their homes. So before I go into any of the results we found with the program so far, I wanted to touch on the program details themselves and how to participate, starting with who can participate in our program. So right now, the rebate is available to residents who own single-family, semi-detached, or townhomes, and they are switching their existing plumbing to soften the hot water only in their home. We're also allowing the rebate to apply when residents are installing a brand new water softener if they are installing it on the hot water only plumbing. We're not offering the rebate to businesses, industrial buildings, apartment buildings, or to residents who are installing a non-salt softening technology like a NAC unit. So how does the program work? There are 3 main steps to the program, and I'll go through each of them in a little bit more detail. But generally, it's the resident will register for the program. They would then make the plumbing changes and submit documentation of the plumbing changes to the region for us to confirm that their rebate requirements have been met. And then we would issue them a $50 rebate via direct deposit to their bank account. So how does one go about registering for the program? So as part of the registration process, we are asking residents to provide us with a baseline water hardness for their home. So we want to know if they're currently softening hot water, cold water, or both, or none. And in order to do that, they have two options. We're asking that they go online to our website at www.regionalwaterloo.ca/conservation, or use the bit.ly link, apply water softener on the slide here. And they have two options. They can either choose to test their own water hardness, in which case we will send them a water hardness kit from the region, or they can book a free wet home audit through our partners Reap Green Solutions. So with the first option, where we mail them a water hardness kit, what that kit comes with is, as you can see on the screen, there's a letter, and that details the program steps, as well as how to use water hardness strips, in case the residents are unfamiliar with that. We'll include a small bag with 5 water hardness kits or strips, and a color graph to give them an idea if their water is being soft or if it's hard. And with that, they also receive a plumbing instruction card, which is on the right side of your screen. And on that card details what we're expecting to see from them when they're submitting their documentation to us. So our hopes is that they use the 5 water hardness strips to test 2 different faucets in their home, both the hot and the cold water, see if they're being softened. And then they'd use the 5th strip to either test their outdoor water tap, weather permitting, or they would test maybe their drinking water tap to see if those are being softened. With the second option for registration, they can have a free home audit with our partners at Reap. And with the home audit, what they could expect is a auditor would come to their home, taking the appropriate COVID-19 safety precautions. The auditor would look for leaks and inefficient water fixtures in their home. They would ask them water use behavioral questions to see sort of the typical water use in the home. They may install more water efficient fixtures than what is in the home. So if they come across an inefficient shower head and they happen to have some with them, or a leaking toilet flapper, they would replace those. As part of the audit, they would also test their water hardness, and they would provide that information to us should the resident choose to go ahead and register for the water softener plumbing rebate program. At the end of the audit, the resident will also receive a personalized report from Reap that details water conservation tips and makes suggestions on any inefficient fixtures or appliances that they could upgrade to help reduce their water bills. Okay, so once a resident has registered for the program, they have tested the water hardness, and they have submitted those results to us. Again, through the audit, it's submitted through the auditor, and if the resident tests it themselves, they can submit it to our water cycle at regionalwaterloo.ca email. So once they have submitted those results, they can go ahead and complete the plumbing changes. We don't have any timelines on when they need to have the changes done by, but when they are complete, and in most cases, residents will be reaching out to a plumber in the area to help them make the plumbing change. Once they're complete, they'll need to provide us with details on the work that was done. So at the bottom of the slide is a picture of the instructions card that goes out to residents once they register for the program. And we're asking that, when possible, they provide us with pictures of the plumbing before and after the changes are made, and also a detailed plumbing receipt. So what we mean by that is we would like to see it explicitly say that the water softener is now plumbed to hot water only, and a cost breakdown of labor and plumbing materials. And then also, if they have purchased a new water softener at the time, we would like the cost of that broken out too, so that we're just looking at the cost of making the actual change to putting it onto hot water only. And then all of this information can be submitted to the region via our water cycle at regionofwaterloo.ca email address, or on the bottom of the form there's a bit.ly link, send water softener results, and those results can be submitted through that form as well. So now you know a little bit about how the program works. I wanted to share with you some of our early program results. So as Steve mentioned, we had a soft launch in July of this year, and we've actually had a lot of interest in the program so far. We've had 295 residents submit their water hardness results to us, and 9 residents have actually completed the plumbing changes so far to switching to soft and hot water only. We have several other residents that are in the process of making the plumbing change as well. And right now we are finding that residents are paying approximately $300 to $400 for the plumbing changes. So of the residents that have been participating in the program, they're saying that their driving factors or the reasons behind their participation is they really want to reduce the environmental impact that they're having, as well as they want to save money on salt and on their water bills. And a bonus of the program is we're finding that a lot of residents want to learn more about water softening in their home. They might not be aware of what is being softened in their home, or if their softener is even working at all. So sometimes when people are doing their water softener hardness tests, or they're having come by to do a home audit, they're discovering that their softener isn't working, or they haven't replaced the salt in a while. So they're finding these results to be quite interesting. We've actually sent out over 800 water hardness kits to residents across the region. So we are getting a lot of details and information back from them. Some of the interesting points we've discovered are that water softening in households are not consistent. So a lot of households we've gotten information back from have stated that, let's say they're in their bathroom faucet, their hot water is being softened but not their cold, but in their second bathroom or in their laundry room, it's their soft water is being softened but not their hot, and just different inconsistencies like that throughout the home. We've also discovered that 20% of households are softening their outdoor water tap or their hose tap, which is not good if they're using it to water the gardens or the grass. And then 21% of households are softening their drinking water tap as well. This brings us to our wet plumbers and dealers list. We're really hoping you'll be interested in participating in this list. It's you can look at it like it's a resource for residents in the region who are looking to complete the water softener and plumbing rebate program. It'll be a list on our Region of Waterloo website that'll have contact information of plumbers and dealers who residents can reach out to have their hot water or their plumbing changed to soft and hot water only. And any of the names or contact information on this list will also be forwarded to program participants when they sign up, so that they'll have access to a list of plumbers that they know that can help them with completing their project. And how to get on the list, it's super easy. All you have to do is attend this webinar or watch a video recording of it online, and then go to our www.regionofwaterloo.ca/water softeners website. And starting tomorrow, there will be a link on the website for a form you can fill out that will ask you a couple questions, and it'll ask for your contact information, and that's it. Then your information will be posted on our website, and that information again will be forwarded to residents who participate in the program. And again, that form is going to go live tomorrow, because we're going to include a link to this webinar in the form as well for those who were not able to attend today. So some of the available resources we have for you, again, there's the plumbers and dealers list. And as part of that, you'll be part of the mailing list that goes out to residents participating in the program. If you want, you can also request copies of the plumbing poster. You'll see it on the right-hand side there. If you want to hang it up in your store or send it to residents, or just have it as a resource available to you. You can request water hardness kits from us, and we can send you some kits if you want to leave it with possible residents or clients, or just have them on hand. And at any point, you can reach out to any of the program coordinators, including Steve, Scott, or myself at our water cycle at regionofwaterloo.ca email address there. We can answer any program-related questions for you at any time. And also, please feel free to check out our www.regionofwaterloo.ca conservation website for links to other webinars that may be of interest and other program-related information. And as Steve was talking about earlier, there's also the water softener facts website that's listed on this slide too that might be of interest to you. So that concludes the presentation portion of our webinar today. We're really happy you could join us, and we're looking forward to working with you to help make a difference in our environment through this program. And as mentioned, if you have any program questions, please feel free to ask them in the chat, and we will do our best to answer them for you. And also, if you come up with questions later, please feel free to email Steve, Scott, or myself at watercycle@regionofwaterloo.ca. I'm going to pass the mic back to Scott. I think he might have a couple more poll questions, and then we can go ahead and answer your questions.
Thanks, Nicole. Yeah, that's right. And we're getting close to 10 o'clock, and I don't want to keep people longer than you've committed to, but I do also want to address some of the questions that have popped up in the chat, or any more that people have before we wrap up. So yeah, we'll do our best here to get to as many questions as possible, and we might run a little bit past 10 o'clock for those of you who are able to stay. Okay, so before we hop into the questions, I do have another polling question for everybody. I'm curious to know, do you think it's a good idea to soften hot water only? And we know there are, yeah, we know there are mixed opinions about this. Curious to hear what you think. The votes are pouring in. All right. Okay, so let me show you the results. We've got a majority saying yes, but also a lot of I'm not sure. And about a quarter of you say no, it's not a good idea. So yeah, I mean, that reflects what we hear from people who signed up for our program. Sometimes they have to call around, and not every plumber encourages them to go through with the softening hot water only. Let's go. So I've got one more poll question, and yeah, if you have any questions for Steve or Nicole or I that you haven't put in the chat box yet, feel free to do so in the next minute or so. So okay, here's our final poll question. Just curious if you're interested in more training about water softening and alternative technologies, perhaps. This was sort of a big picture look. We weren't too in-depth on any one particular topic, except for maybe our rebate program. But if you're interested, yeah, in anything more specific, that's something we could consider doing in the future if there's an audience for it. Okay, looks like the votes are pretty much all in. Okay, looks like many of you do want more specific training. So that's something that our team can definitely look at and work towards. Thank you. And I may also send out a post-webinar survey to you through email with maybe some more specifics about this, like what time is a good time for you to do these trainings. You know, is 9 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, we recognize that might be good for some people and not so good for other people. So yeah, we want to get an idea of what's a good time for you as well. Okay, so let's look in the chat box here. There were some questions that we have kind of been answering or discussing as we go through. Kevin brought up Ontario Building Code changes from 2012 that required the NSF 44 standard for water softeners. So that would be something, yeah, that's so new builds, I guess, would be then required to have these efficient water softeners.
Anything that needs a permit to be installed, including
Anything that needs a
builds.
permit, yeah. Yeah, thank you.
And the region has been pretty good, as well as Guelph, on managing that. I work closely with a lot of the building inspectors in the area.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Yeah, and I should say, yeah, feel free, if you prefer to ask your question live, feel free to just turn on your camera and ask. That's okay too.
Thank you, Kevin. I wasn't aware that they changed the building code in 12 to require the new performance standard.
CWQA did that as part of its, call it, mission to legitimize the industry and to align with current building codes and align with what the federal government was looking at for water use efficiency as an objective, as well as energy use. As you know, those two objectives are sometimes at odds within the building code, and it's something that we definitely had to address as an industry. Full disclosure, guys, I'm the retired executive director of the CWQA, current standing member of the Standing Committee for Plumbing and HVAC, the group that writes national building codes, and I advise the Ontario Plumbing Inspectors Association as well in my free time. But yeah, so definitely a resource that I've made myself available to Steve in the past heavily to assist in all the work he's done.
Thank you, Kevin. I haven't heard from you in a while, so it's I'm glad you're with us.
Yeah. Retirement does that to you. Actually, I've been very busy on a lot of the COVID stuff out of Health Canada in the last 10 months.
Yeah. I'm glad you came out of retirement to join us this morning. Kevin had another point asking about or speaking about appliances and their warranties and whether you lose your warranty from having unsoftened water going to them, specifically dishwashers and washing machines and coffee machines. So I know we've done some research into warranties, and we found, we obviously haven't read every warranty for every manufacturer, but we did find several washing machines where it did not explicitly require softened water for those machines. Dishwashers, and then maybe there are some that do. I can't say that with 100% certainty. For dishwashers, often those have been just connected to the hot water supply. So softening hot water only wouldn't affect the softened or unsoftened water going into a dishwasher.
Scott, to correct you, since 2008, dishwashers haven't been connected to the hot water supply. They have their own heaters inside, and that was to meet energy efficiency requirements out of NR10.
Okay, is that true for all dishwashers, like
yes, sir.
In new builds, or all dishwashers manufactured from that year on?
I think so, yes.
Okay, yeah, I guess so. Ones previously installed wouldn't be necessarily affected, but yes, going forward, that's the standard technology.
So Kevin, what you're saying is that the plumbing code requires connecting dishwashers to the cold water side and not the hot.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yeah, because if they, like, I'll use the Bosch ones as an example because I have it in my home. It's only a single line going into the dishwasher today, and that's how you use the softener. They wouldn't put hot water through a salt resin softener. One, you would destroy the resin, and two, you would dissolve salt awfully fast, rendering the ion exchange almost impossible. So that's how that works for the higher end dishwashers, as an example. But with the energy efficiency requirements that's been running through the feds in the last decade and change, a lot of appliances have been fed with only cold water. Even if your hot water is fed into your washing machine, how often today do we use it when you think about it? So that's one of the biggest challenges I think we will have as we redesign plumbing systems to deal with some of the challenges Region 4 Waterloo has. And hence some of the recommendations, conflicting recommendations, we probably see today.
Well, yeah, in this area so far, we always seem to come across the dishwashers being plumbed into hot water only.
Yeah, they
And
should
that's the way
be.
in the houses I've lived in. So
And there may be older homes with and just remember, this stuff industry was unfortunately ahead of some of this stuff versus what was required in the plumbing code. So some of the stuff wasn't changed till 2012. Some of the stuff hasn't been changed yet. So it wasn't updated till last Christmas or 2019. So yeah, there is a lot of catching up Ontario has to do.
That might be something we need to look at in terms of like determining if homeowners have that type of dishwasher. If we recommend the program,
it might be part of your ongoing survey.
Well, we know that there are dishwashers out there that have little mini softeners built into them, which, in a household where if you're not softening, you can just pinpoint the dishwasher and use a little softener in there. But a lot of people don't even know they've got a dishwasher that has a softener built in. So yeah, it's an ongoing learning process for all of us and an education process. And at the end of the day, what we're hoping to do is to reduce those chlorides going into the wastewater system and into our rivers and streams. So, we're trying to do the right thing.
Yeah. We're with you on that mission too, sir, because it's important.
We had another question. Someone asked if the region would consider offering a rebate instead for people to buy a NSF efficient softener. Steve, you want to handle that one? Is that something that we've considered or might do in the future?
I texted the answer to that, and the answer at this point is that we're not offering rebates. Madison, Wisconsin, they're moving in the direction of they're offering rebates on both the efficiency, like having plumbers go out and do sort of a health check on the water softeners and try to make them as efficient as possible, or then recommend if they're not able to make the softener more efficient, they're offering rebates for people who want to change them out for more efficient units. But at this point, we're not going to pursue that. We really want to pursue the hot water only, and it really makes sense to soften hot water only. Experts in the field across North America have said the same thing, but they're saying it more quietly than we are because we're now putting a rebate towards that. The idea is we can make a bigger impact in a shorter period of time, I think, by softening hot water only than having offering rebates for putting in a softener that most people should be doing when they buy a new softener anyways, is getting one that's certified to the NSF ANSI 44 standard. The thing there is that softeners are highly, they're adjustable, maybe not highly, but they are adjustable. And they come, as you know, as a lot of you know, there's factory settings for the salt settings and regeneration cycles. And they can be altered, they can be changed. You can take a really efficient softener and turn it into a timer based by overriding the automatic controls on the unit and set it up to regenerate as many times as you want, which may not be the right move. So I have concerns about, putting money into rebating water softeners at this point. So down the road, perhaps, if there's technologies or advances in softener technologies or other alternative treatments, we may look at it. But at this point, I think we're moving ahead with the hot water only for the next few years anyways.
We have more of a comment, I guess, from Stephen in the chat. Says that he finds in new houses when installing a softener, there can be substantial changes to the piping that's required if you want to soften specific appliances, such as a washing machine, and also avoid sending soft water to drinking taps and outside taps. So yeah, we certainly do recommend or advise people not to soften the water that they're sending to their taps or outdoors. I mean, there's really no need to soften your water for outdoor use. And that kind of, I think that sort of touches on the cost, like how much does it cost, or how difficult is it to plumb to soften hot water only? And that's something we're trying to determine as well. And we're finding there can be quite a big range depending on each home and where the water softener is and sort of the accessibility of it. So there's we're getting a wide variety of plumbing costs from people on that. I don't know if Steve or Nicole, if you have anything else to add on that topic.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Steve.
I was just going to say, it's really variable from one house to the other, and I'm sure the plumbers out there can attest to the fact that it's a pretty mixed bag, but we're hoping that, you know, if plumbers get called to do other things in the house, it might make sense to consider the plumbing change for softening at the same time as there may be some other plumbing work required in the house. A lot of times people won't call unless, you know, their softener's leaking or whatever, and at that point, you know, you can have the discussion with the customers about what the options are and what might be best. The other thing is that if you when you do your invoicing, you sort of itemize it so that we can see that, you know, this was what was done for plumbing, for hot water only, and then some of the other things itemized separately. It's going to make our job easier when we look at allocating how much the real costs are associated with changing plumbing to softening hot water only. And if you have questions about that, please give us a call or contact Nicole, and you know, we'll learn as we go as to how much it costs to do the plumbing changes, and the appetite both on your end and on the customer end for making those changes.
I have a last question or a comment. Steve, would you guys be consider, it's Kevin here again, a guidance to home builders if they're going to put softeners into new homes, or a guideline to plumb the home? Because the cheapest time to plumb a home for what you suggest is during construction. So for the new housing stock, which is huge in the region right now with all the development, would that not be call it a recommended conversation to have with the building officials and the developers?
Absolutely, Kevin. It's on our to-do list. We've developed sort of a draft water efficient build standards for homes. Nicole and I have been working on that, and we want to pilot that in the East Side Lands development area of Cambridge. And there's a lot, that's kind of our last big development area. There's going to be some residential, a lot of industrial commercial as well. And so, yes, that we actually have that on the list to develop a guidance document. And, you know, if you have input on that, Kevin, it would be great if we could maybe perhaps work together on developing that document and the guideline.
Excellent. I mean, resurrecting some of the stuff Health Canada did back in the 70s would be would be recommended. I mean, as a starting point, and look at how we've how the building system, especially the plumbing system, has modernized to today, and we can definitely have a conversation on that.
Great.
Okay, I think we have covered just about everything in the chat. Yeah, and in the interest of time, I'll wrap this up. But if you do have more follow-up questions or want to discuss this further, please do get in touch with us through that email address there on your screen. And thank you very much for joining us. Hope we've given you sort of an overview of what the region's looking at in terms of efficient softening and our reasons for the hot water only pilot program. And yeah, I thank you for your input and your questions. We really hope that we can work with you to keep making water softening more efficient here in the region and reduce some of the environmental impacts of these machines. Yeah, we're finding there certainly is an appetite among people in the region to do something like this. So something we want to keep working on. And like Nicole said, if you're interested in being joining our list of participating wet plumbers and dealers that we can connect to people in the program, that link will be online by tomorrow. So if you're interested, look at the region's water softeners page. Okay. With that, I think we'll end it there. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Have a good rest of your day.